This rather unassuming lump of Vac Formed plastic is all that's left of the Special Weapons Dalek's first victim. It's a lightweight special effects Dalek eye that was given to me by one of my all-time favourite proper model making heroes during my first ever job working on a BBC exhibition. It's a lovely, albeit rather beaten up, piece of original Dalek history, and I've been fortunate enough to own it now for just a tad over 3 decades. In all those years I've been offered serious money for it, several times in fact. Yet, here it still is, collecting dust in my tiny little collection, if you can even call it that. I just thought you might like to see it. So the story goes that there are 2 factions of Daleks, the grey and black Renegades and the white and gold Imperials, and neither likes the other for some reason best known to themselves. Both groups are on Earth in the 1960s looking for an ancient piece of Time Lord technology for a reason that I really can't remember, and I'm even less inclined to bother looking up. As the Renegades close in on their goal, the Imperials send forth the Special Weapons Dalek to wipe their nemesis from existence, and to allow them to claim their prize for whatever dastardly planet is that they have in mind. And it's right here, in that very instance, where my little trinket comes into play. Blink, and you'll miss it. Did you see it? Here, let me show you that again. Wait for it. Wait for it, here it comes. Steady yourself now. Nearly there. And look, there it is. That sequence was nothing more than a simple bait and switch manoeuvre. The oldest trick in the book, really. Obviously, the BBC didn't really want to destroy their beautiful new Dalek props that were only built a couple of years earlier and adapted for this adventure, so at the right moment they substituted in a couple of lightweight pyro props for all the explosive action. To start the sequence, the hero renegades trundled very slowly and a bit wobbly into shot. The angle cuts to the Special Weapons Dalek getting itself into position, and then firing. Then, when we return to the Renegades, they're now the 2 static lightweight dummy props that go off in a blaze of fountainous debris and fiery glory. Now these dummy Daleks were built specifically to be blown up, so they didn't really need to look perfect as you only see them for a split second before the detonation ensues, but the illusion is sound nonetheless. This Dalek image is simply for illustrational purposes only, but let's just say that it isn't one of the hero props and that it is actually one of the pyros. From the base to the top of the neck, rigid foam was cast into the hero prop moulds, which resulted in a lightweight casting that was also very brittle, perfect for being obliterated by the explosive force of the pyrotechnics. And judging by the explosive pattern, the BBC's pyrotechnician probably used deck cord for that. The dome and the eye, however, were lightweight vac forms pulled over a fiberglass casting in thin, stock grey ABS plastic sheet. Once all painted up, you'd hardly be able to tell the difference in that fraction of a second before they ceased to be, and best of all, being made from such materials, if, God forbid, that fragments of them did hit people or property during the gag, the likelihood is that no damage would be caused. As I just mentioned, the eye and dome were vac formed, but let's just concentrate on this original eye, as this is what this video is all about after all. BBC Visual Effects took a casting of the hero eye and sawed it in half on a bandsaw, lengthways, right down the middle. This was then placed on a vac former and heated ABS sheeting was crudely pulled over it under a vacuum. You can see that not much care was taken or even needed here. The details are soft and ill-formed, and unsightly webbing is formed over the stalk where there's too much material that hadn't been pushed down hard enough. They clearly did not bother with a draft to help with this. The 2 sides were then cut out and roughly hot glued together, and my goodness, just look at that seam. Remember kids, this was only going to be seen in one wide shot for a split second, so it doesn't really matter. After the halves had been joined, it was quickly painted up in black and silver, then a chrome disc was added to the front to finish it off. The eye assembly was then glued to the dome, and all that was had to top the rest of the prop, ready for its explosive end. Early 1992. A young, fresh-faced me was given the job of helping to put together the BBC's Isle of Wight Doctor Who exhibition by none other than John Nathan Turner, the man in charge of the show for its final years on television, during its original run of course. On a cold afternoon in February or March, Ian Scoons, one of my child prop and model-making heroes, and for the duration of this job my supervisor, sauntered down one of the unfinished corridors brandishing this eye prop in his hand. Waving it under my nose, he asked me whether or not I wanted it, because if I didn't, then it was going in the bin. He'd actually thrown quite a bit away, some of which I managed to rescue, but that's a story for another time. Naturally, I accepted his kind offer and carefully placed this hallowed object in my bag, ready to be taken home that evening. Now, I don't normally collect screen-used props, in fact, I actively avoid them, but back then this was the first I'd ever been given, and more importantly, it was from someone who I deeply admired, so, as you can imagine, it has a certain level of meaning to me beyond its inherent screen-used nature. No. Okay, slightly longer answer then. Still no, and here's why. I've been offered thousands of pounds for it over the years by a variety of prospective buyers, and every time I have respectfully declined. While it is just a hunk of badly put together plastic that I never really look at or have even put out on display, but it does have a certain sentimental meaning to me. It represents a piece of my history from my formative carefree years. That glorious first time when I was barely into my teens and I was given the opportunity to work on an official BBC Doctor Who exhibition, where I got to see and handle all those props that I'd grown up loving throughout the years. Working there was a dream come true for someone like me, a young fan, and best of all, I was employed by the producer of that very programme. He was the one who rang me up the year before and asked me whether or not I wanted to do it. So, every week, for several months, it was my father who dutifully drove me to the arse end of nowhere every weekday evening and every weekend, just so that I could live that dream. Not only that, but I got to team up with a hero of mine, Ian Scoons, and I was fortunate enough to hear all his fascinating stories firsthand about all the episodes he'd worked on and all manner of props he'd built or had dealings with, including the sonic screwdriver, a prop that I used to dearly love before it was ruined for me by a bunch of absolute arseholes. To top it off, this man gave me a screen-used prop, and a Dalek one no less. This isn't just an artefact, it's history, it's part of my story, and if I were to ever sell it, then I would deeply regret it because where would I get another? I couldn't, it would be impossible. So, as you can probably imagine, I would just never sell this, even if you offered me £1 million. My wife thinks I'm an idiot for saying that, but things of sentiment hold no monetary value to me at all because when I look at it, all I see are memories, friendships, fun times, and people who are no longer with us. You could never, ever put a price on that. So, thanks for joining me and Salvador here on a little walk through my history, and I'm delighted to tell you that this episode was brought to you by the good people at Squesp. Oh, hang about. No, it wasn't. It wasn't brought to you by anyone. No one sponsors me. It was brought to you by me. So if you like this kind of thing, why not subscribe? There's lots of good stuff here. Anyway, until next time, take care of yourselves, and I'll speak to you again soon. Thanks for watching.